Again, I'd like to get started. And again, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today. I appreciate your time because I mean, I see you out there. I know I've been following you for a couple of years, and I see you on social media really active. And I've seen you, do interviews in Spanish and English. It's amazing what you can do for your movement. First of all, if you can just tell us a little bit about your pro-life. What is it that you're doing for now for pro-life, and what do you believe it's important to stand up for pro-life?
Well, what I do now is many things from trying to help in on the foster system, to try to help women in need on a crisis pregnancy, to literally help people at any stage of their lives. I volunteer for a lot of organizations, but why do I think it's important? To me, being pro-life means from womb to tomb. It doesn't stop just from a woman stopping of having an abortion. It doesn't stop from someone just because she's 40 years old and supposed to be a grown woman now. It doesn't stop because it's a 70-year-old person home alone. I think that when you're pro-life for the whole life, you mean it. One thing I should tell you is I'm against the death penalty. I truly believe as a Catholic, only God has that power to take or give life. Right now, is it something I didn't see that way before? Yes. I changed my mind in a lot of things now as a pro-life activist, that the Mayra you're talking to right now is not the same one 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's definitely not the same. You're completely correct, and I completely agree with you on everything that you said. My second question will be, what is your mission with your current pro-life movement?
Well, my mission is, like probably anyone on this movement, to make abortion unthinkable. To me, it's not about making it illegal, right? Like you can pass laws and you can pass legislations, but it will still be available, right? And that's a lot of the argument from the other side. Even if you make it illegal, then these women are just gonna have back alley abortions. In certain way, that is correct. That's why we have to change the mentality. We have to change hearts. Just like my heart was changed, that's my goal, to change hearts. That even if it's available, a woman will not have to choose abortion because it's not something that she needs to choose anymore. Does that make sense?
That makes complete sense, and thank you so much for sharing that answer. Now, my next thing I'd like to mention, I mean, I see you out there, and throughout your work history, you won many accomplishments as a hardworking woman in the community. Uh, in this specific matter, can you please tell us a little about your work ethic? What is it that made you like this?
Well, I'm a rule follower, believe it or not. That's what got Planned Parenthood in trouble, that I'm a rule follower. I follow the protocol, I follow the law. I moved to this country when I was a teenager, so eventually I became an undocumented person. And I thought, if I'm already here undocumented, I have to follow the law and everything else. Does that make sense? First of
Yes.
all, I was a teenager, so it was my mother who brought me here, my parents who brought me here. So I had no saying on it, right? But in a way, I'm one of those Mexican immigrants that I like, oh, okay, I'm undocumented, then I'm going to behave the best way possible, like never take anything that doesn't belong to you. I always like to say I never use anyone's social security number. I always pay my taxes. I never ask for food stamps or any government assistance programs, right? Why? Because to me, I'm a rule follower. I like to live by law as much as possible, right? Which a lot of the people on the other side will say, well, that's contradictory because abortion is by law. I agree. I'm not against a woman. I mean, I will encourage and change the heart of a woman. I'm not saying I will prohibit you to have an abortion. My goal is to talk to them. That's my ethics. Like a lot of people do what it's called rose they're calling like rose rescues, and they literally block the entrance of clinics and stuff. I mean, that's the way to do activism. My personal opinion coming from that side is you cannot do that. I mean, because you're not changing that woman's heart, you're forcing her to do a decision, and at the long run that's not going to play in our best interest. Eventually, my opinion is, if you prevent that woman from having an abortion, you just block her way in without changing her heart about it and her mind about it, then she's just going to do it at home the next day or find another way to get it done. Does that make sense? So, and now she's just going to do it because you prevent her from doing it. So my ethic is change the heart and the mind. Don't force them. Like when they call us forced birth, that's not true. What we're here for is to change their hearts and minds, to make them see that having that baby, it's not the end of the world. They're not gonna be worse than they are today, but the opposite, that they will do better.
please tell us a little bit about how you're currently advocating for the pro-life movement and how you're currently helping your community.
Okay, yeah, so I do many different activities. One of them is I volunteer for a crisis hotline, which is called Love Line, where people reach out to us in need of different kind of assistance. You know, it's not only pregnant women, it's actually, we have like grandparents too calling for needing financial help or other services, right? We also help out with a couple lawyers in California. They take care of the immigrant children that come to the border without parents, and what they do is find them asylum. I translate for them, and then they're placed into foster system. And then what I do is advocate for people to join the foster care system, so these kids can find a home in their culture, in their language spoken, you know. Like I said before, religion, you know, I am Catholic. I'm born and raised Catholic. So to me, it's all about my religion. So I do ask for people to continue praying on the sidewalk. I join the praying on the sidewalk as much as I can. I'm a strong believer that we cannot do this without praying. You know, and then on the political level, when I'm a member of Democrats for Life, and I know, don't call me crazy, okay? I know you and I talked about this before. It's hard to understand that there could be such a thing as Democrat and pro-life, you know, but I think your Congressman Cuellar in Texas can show that it's possible, you know. I admire him a lot because he stands his ground when it comes to pro-life issues in his home state, you know. And I found the need of educating our community, especially the Latino. The Latino is being fooled far too long by the Democrat Party. I was, you know, you won't believe, but this girl was a big fan of Obama. You know, now that I know who Obama is, it's like, wow, how wrong I was, you know. So educating the Latino community that being pro-life, that being Democrat doesn't mean that they're going to respect our values. You know, that some Democrats out there are not there to take care of us, but they're just to take care of their pockets, you know. And that's mainly why I joined Democrats for Life, to educate the Latino community who they're voting for, because they think that they vote for a Democrat because they will be nice and help the immigrant community. In reality, that's not happening. We know it's not happening. All they're doing is helping the abortion industry, the sex exploitation industry, and that's literally who they're working for. So looking in that need of educating the Latino community, that's why I joined Democrats for Life. So all that along, then I help my husband with our trucking company on the administration side. That's what I do with It's Not Activism.
Hey, you're always out there. I mean, you're helping your husband, so you know you're doing amazing things, like all women out there. So thank you for your hard work. Now, you mentioned something that caught my attention. You know, Democrats for Life. Yes, a lot of people buy the wrong idea. They assume the wrong thing about the party, and a lot of people don't really know how the Democrat Party was actually born. The Democrat Party was born by Roosevelt in the 1912, I believe it was, when he left the Republicans. And this is a bunch of team that used to work in the same party, the Republican, but they weren't getting elected anymore. So they left the Republican Party and they started their own party with an opposite agenda. But I tell people, it's the same people that were working together. They just branched out and they sold a different idea. But they do author, they advertise a lot of things. I was also trusted Obama in a lot of ways. You know, I fell for it, and you know, come to find out it wasn't really what they were selling to us, and the reality was a lot different, because you know they found ways to manipulate our community in a lot of ways. So you mentioned a pretty important topic, and thank you for that. Now, why do you believe a whistleblower is always treated so bad after all they really do is tell the truth?
Isn't it something like in Spanish we have a word for it? They call us chismosos. You know, when we're raising our children, we tell them, if you see something, say something, right? I mean, how long we hear this since we're children? We tell our kids, if you see someone getting bullied, speak up. If someone tells you, don't tell your parents, speak up. In school, the teachers always tell them, you know, if anything's wrong, speak up. And then something happens that we become adults, is like, do not speak up anymore, stay quiet, hide it, just play along, pretend you didn't see anything, right? And it is very sad. I mean, thankfully, there's a big, huge movement about whistleblowers. I invite you to watch the hashtags on Twitter and stuff. It's called the Whistleblower Project. And, you know, people are starting to realize that being a whistleblower, it's not an easy decision. You know why? Because I mean, people now see me that I'm traveling and whatnot, you know, maybe, oh, that's how cool, you know, because she's a whistleblower, she gets to do that. But there's so much behind it, you know. A lot of people turn their back on you. For example, if it wasn't because I got a job with my husband, it would be really hard for you to get another job somewhere else. Why? Because people tend to do wrong things and they don't want someone calling them out, you know, which is the sad part, you know. And unfortunately, there's whistleblowers from every angle, or even government facilities, hospitals, you know, church, you know, religious. You know, it's sad that we know that so many people are doing wrong things, and whistleblowers have to exist, right?
You know what? Yes, you're completely right. One thing to notice is that whistleblowers initially they're really loved by organizations, and everybody likes them and everybody loves you because you're working so hard for them. But by just working hard and just doing your honest work, you get to see a lot of things. And especially, like, I'm a numbers guy and I've seen it before. I mean, I don't like numbers, but when you want to do an analysis, it all comes back to the numbers. Numbers never lie. And when you're a hardworking employee, like you were yourself, a hard, dedicated working woman like yourself, you find things and you see things by just working and doing your honest work. And when you call them out, you know, some of them, you start noticing the trend that they being addressed, and then they move it to a different direction. And then you open your eyes and you see the reality of it. And then all of a sudden, you know, you've changed from this great employee to, you know, we don't like you anymore. You're so bad. And that brings me to my next question. Why do you believe organizations actually hate whistleblowers?
Well, I think that they like to hide things when it's convenient. You just said it, right? If I would have blown the whistle on someone stealing, like an employee stealing money, then there would have been great job, Mayra. If I would have blown the whistle into, for example, a pharmaceutical company kind of selling us bad equipment or something, then there would have been great job, Mayra, right? But it's who do you blow the whistle to, right? And we have seen this. I blew the whistle on the biggest part of Planned Parenthood, which is the abortionist, right? That's the one who they wanted to protect, right? The pharmaceutical companies, when whistleblowers have blew the whistles on scientists or some sort of a report that wasn't done properly, that's affecting their business, right? And they don't like them anymore, right? And I think that's part of it. I think here they didn't like it that I blew the whistle on the abortionist. And I mean, he's the one to be protected above all. It's not about women. It's about protecting the one who makes the money. And that's the abortionist.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your response. My next question will be, how did you get started at Planned Parenthood?
Well, it was the year 2000, and my friend worked there. And I had my medical lab technician background from Mexico City. And I always wanted to work in the medical field. I had a dream as a child to become a doctor in my home country. Obviously, when that didn't come true, when I found myself in a foreign country as an immigrant, very hard to do that. Then the next best thing was working in a place, healthcare related, right, where they help women. And that's what my friend said, you know, they help women. Now, I knew very little about Planned Parenthood. I didn't even know who they were really. You know, she told me they help women, they do medical stuff, you like medical stuff. You know, it was a Monday through Friday job, holidays off. I had a baby, you know, it was convenient. And then also doing what inspired me and what I was passionate about, which is the healthcare field and helping women, right? And then on top of it, they hired me because I spoke Spanish and I get to go and talk to my community. So can you imagine? It's like they care about me, they care about women, they care about immigrants. Jackpot, right?
Yes. Yes, of course. You know, you were sold on a different idea than, you know, what you were actually walking into. But no, thank you for providing that answer. My next question will be, what was your last position before you were wrongfully terminated?
I was the director of 3 centers simultaneously.
Oh, wow.
I was directing North Phoenix, Flagstaff, and Glendale, Arizona.
Wow, that sounds like a big project. How complex was it? How different it was from anything that you had done before?
Well, it was very different. I had been the training coordinator for them, which was statewide, but it's still now is in charge of 3 centers, 3 staff, different staff, different nurse practitioners, PAs, nurses, and then it was different because I took over of the biggest abortion facility in Glendale, Arizona, and dealing with the abortionists. I have heard the horror stories about it, but being there and now have to deal with them head to head, that was a totally different, I think those 10 months were the most stressful months of my life, to be honest with you. I had nightmares, taking care of an abortion facility. It's not easy. I don't think anyone wakes up saying, I want to be an abortion director. No one in their right mind would ever said that, so it was challenging. But it's still, like I had managed my center and another center. So when I took over the abortion facility, I felt pretty confident that I could do the job.
Yes, of course. And you were fully capable of doing it. And you were doing it so great. I mean, you were doing an amazing job. That's why you won even Employee of the Year. How many years did you actually work for Planned Parenthood?
17.
17 years.
Yes.
But that wasn't a short trip. That wasn't like, something that you started and left right away. You were there for a long time. Some people don't get to experience that longevity in that line of work. So
exactly.
Now, why do you believe Planned Parenthood changes directors so often?
Well, it's fine if you're not at the abortion facilities, which now they hardly have any non-abortion facilities. But in the past, they had the non-abortion side and the abortion side. And it's very easy to last there when you're directing a non-abortion facility. Actually, the centers that were not doing abortion, their directors had been there a long time like me. But it is the abortion facilities that cannot retain the directors. Well, first of all, it's very hard to deal with the abortionist. The abortionist literally thinks they're God. I mean, look at it. They pick and choose who gets to live or die, and then the staff, they're very unhappy to be there. Retention of employees, it's really, really hard because they don't want to be there. No one wants to work there. And then let's talk about the women. Women don't want to be there. So they're under stress, they're angry, they're sad, it's that feeling that you get in that center so heavy that makes people be so unhappy to be there. So obviously no one lasts. And then I strongly believe that my predecessors, before I joined the Planned Parenthood in Glendale, have seen worse things or things like I have seen, and they literally stayed quiet. Why? Because we were under the impression that literally I'm big, you're small, and there's nothing you can do about it, right? That's what Planned Parenthood makes us all feel like. We're big, we're powerful, there's nothing you guys can do about it. And I strongly believe that a lot of them saw a lot of things. I mean, I did hear from a couple of them after I left. Actually, one of them, it's really funny story. Can I tell you about it real quick?
Yes, of course.
So I had just won the lawsuit, and it became news on the newspaper here in Arizona, on the local newspaper and the local news. And I'm taking my mom to the doctor facility that she goes to, and then all of a sudden I hear someone calling my name, Mayra. And then I look around, and it was this guy that I've known. He was a former director of that center. And I'm like, oh, hey, how you doing? What are you doing here? Oh, I'm the director of this facility, blah, blah. Oh, I said, that's where you went. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, all I heard was that you were gone. And then he took me to the employee office that he had. And they were like at least 6 former Planned Parenthood employees there. And when I walk in, they're like, guess who I found on the hallway? And they were like, who? Mayra. And they all started clapping because they have heard the news. And they were like, I'm glad you took on them. And what he told me he have seen by them forging parental consents, forging signatures on documents, a lot of illegal activities. And then I said to him, why didn't you say something? He was like, I was scared. Now I knew if I would have won $3 million too, I would have done it a long time ago. He said, I'm like, what? No, I mean, you should have just done it because it's the right thing. But I mean, to walk into a room with former employees and they all clap because you won a lawsuit against their former employee because they thought no one could do that. I mean, it's like, it's sad. I was happy, of course, but it's sad. You know, it's sad that they decided to stay quiet because they were that afraid.
Of course, you know, but not only were they afraid, they get intimidated by a lot of things, especially, I mean, in this country specifically, in any country at all, in any country in general, you know, big, powerful corporations, they do find a way to, you know, to intimidate employees and threaten employees in a lot of ways, and direct and indirect ways. And it's really sad because, I mean, yes, you got to experience at least a positive side by winning the lawsuit, and that's great. But people may not see the fact that you struggled a lot when you were terminated, when you were accused of a bunch of things, when they started this campaign to go against you based on lies. So, you know, you've been through a lot. You know, you got to experience some positive, of course, at the end of it, because you were right and you were doing the right thing. But people may not see the suffering that you went through.
Yeah, people don't understand. It's a hard decision.
It is, because once you become a whistleblower, you get a lot of labels, and they labeled you as a lot of things that you haven't been and you never have been. But then you're in the middle of this mess, and you know, you just have to keep going.
I mean, have you ever Googled the meaning of whistleblower?
I have not.
It actually comes up with a description like they're called rats and this and that, and you're like, are you kidding me?
Yes, I completely agree with you. There's a misunderstanding of the actual term properly, but hey, at the end of the day, you know, you were just a hardworking employee that spoke out, and you know, we're not gonna stay quiet, and you were gonna say what's right because you were right, and you did nothing wrong at the end of the day. So that's always something that we all can learn from. Now you were able to prove Planned Parenthood, specifically, we're talking about this lawsuit on multiple locations. Now, what happened in that lawsuit? What basically led to that lawsuit?
Well, when I started looking over the Glendale facility, the abortion facility, I started noticing how the women were getting hurt, what abortion really meant. You know, I started noticing that the complications that they don't report, the falsifying patient charts, they're not reporting minors statutory rape, which means minors that have been impregnated by adults, and specifically complications as incomplete abortions. You know, I start calling those things out. And there was a case about an incomplete abortion of a 14-week baby, you know, where the doctor referred to the head as trash when we asked him, hey, we can't locate the baby head. You need to go back and check her. And he goes, well, go find her in the trash, because that's what it was to him. You know, ultimately that case was what I left the center that day, called my supervisor, and I said no more. You know, after that, everything just literally a few days later, they fired me. And then I decided to start a lawsuit because, number one, I needed to prove that they were lying. See, if I didn't have the legal background behind me, the legal proof behind me, today they will come out and say she's a liar, she was undocumented, she lied, don't believe a word she said, she doesn't exist, right? They would have done that easy to get rid of me, right? Second of all, because we needed the legal proof, the legal case for people to be like, hey, it is there. Rodriguez versus Planned Parenthood. It's a public document. Go in and find it. It existed, you know. And third, because women deserve to know the truth, you know. And also, as a Latino, as an immigrant, it was very important for me to kind of like set a precedent to my community that we cannot stay quiet. You know, I had a lot to risk. You know, I was still undocumented. I could have been deported, and I was willing to deal with that consequence of me starting a lawsuit, because to me it was bigger than just my safety. You know, to me it was about justice to all those women, to the unborn, but also to show the immigrant community that we cannot just look aside and let them do things just because we're afraid to go back to our countries.
Exactly. You know, just because we are a minority that, you know, it's turning now into bigger than it used to be, doesn't mean we have to stay quiet. You know, we have a right, and, you know, we have an opinion. And especially if we're right, you know, we should all learn from you and speaking out on things that happen to us that are not fair. Because a lot of people go around life, you know, being treated so bad, and they don't say it. A lot of people don't stand up for themselves. And, you know, that's what it affects in a lot of aspects of the community. So thank you for showing that example in a lot of ways.
not only that, a lot of them watch that things happen, you know, that are really wrong, and they stay quiet. For example, there's these women in Oxnard, California, that they work on the fields, you know, picking cilantro, lettuce, whatnot, whatever is growing there, you know, and they get raped by the foreman, taken to Planned Parenthood for abortions, and everyone stays quiet about it, you know, like they don't see anything. So there's a lot of things that on the immigrant community, you know, we just sit and watch and think that because we are nobody here, we shouldn't speak up.
Yes, and a lot of times when it comes to situations in life, I come to realize that sometimes you don't think you're going to be in the middle of anything so serious, and then it happens to either you or someone that you know, or someone or someone that told you about something, and then you find out that it's really difficult sometimes to, first of all, open the eyes and see the reality of it and accept it. And then the next thing is, how is it that we can help that person move forward? Because, you know, that person has been through a lot. What can we do to, you know, help them in any way? So how do you make you feel winning the case against Planned Parenthood, and why?
Well, I can tell you that it was 12 people on the jury. They were all pro-choice and pro-abortion. I mean, the judge herself was a Democrat. You know, obviously, you are so afraid that they're not going to do their job, you know, that the justice system will be rigged and fall for the big guy, right? We're the one with the big bucks. So first of all, I was very grateful to God. Obviously, you know, he was there in that courtroom the entire trial. I was grateful to the jury for doing their job. You know, they sacrificed 2 weeks of their life. They sat there, heard my side, heard Planned Parenthood, and they still sided with me, which it was the truth. You know, I was very grateful because they put aside their beliefs, they put aside what they thought abortion was to listen to what I had to say. So they gave me a voice. You know, I was very grateful to the judge because even though she was a Democrat, and I mean, when I'm telling you she was a Democrat, her biography on her website says for women's reproductive rights, you know, which you know what that means, right? So I was very grateful for her, you know, for her to let me bring my case to court, because at the end she decides who gets trial and who doesn't, you know, and she let me. And grateful to my lawyer that believed in me from the first day that I stepped into his office and I told him my story, you know, but also for all the community in Arizona were praying for me. You know, they were told to pray silently for a case happening in court. So winning that day, it wasn't a feeling that, haha, I win and you losers. No, nothing, but it was kind of a feeling of the beginning of justice, you know, not for me, but for the many former employees that I have seen being done wrong, you know. So that was the greatest feeling. And also to know that I will be able to speak up about it now, you know, it's like this was, I knew to me was the first step, you know, I knew that hearing you won wasn't the end of it. To me, it was my first step to be able to come out and tell my story to the world, and then also, you know, give this pro-life movement, the people on the sidewalk, that hope, you know, that yes, what you were thinking, it's correct, what you thought is right, and here's the legal proof for it.
Now, many people don't know that Planned Parenthood is actually an organization that works around the globe under their very different names. What can you tell us about that?
You know, every time I speak in public, I always say there's more Planned Parenthoods than McDonald's in the world, and people drop their jaws. You know, it amazes me that people here don't know. I didn't know. I don't blame them. I worked for these guys, and I didn't know how big they were. You know, I didn't know that IPPF, International Planned Parenthood Federation, has so many affiliates on every country. You know, that they're called FUSA in Argentina, Pro Familia in Colombia, MexFam in Mexico. But you know what was the worst part that I didn't know? Is that we donate almost 50% of the funds that they use to promote abortion in other countries. That I didn't know either. And most people don't know that here. You know, they don't know that our taxes are being used to kill babies everywhere in the world. You know, that we fund ships in the open seas. You know, that we ship women there to get abortions in the continent of Africa or Asia, where there's no abortions happening in their country. So a lot of people don't know that all these funds are coming from our tax money, right? And who finances Planned Parenthood, you know? I personally, I work for, I mean, look at it. I was the training coordinator for almost over a year, right? That means that I will teach everyone the mission and vision and history of Planned Parenthood. And I didn't know how big they were. You know, this was something I have learned after I left them. You know, all the amount of money they're receiving from all over the world. Why International Planned Parenthood was created, you know, to do this controlled population all over the world that started in India. You know how they are attacking females mostly. Why? Because not only is the female who goes through the abortion, but it is 52% of 53% of the abortions worldwide are girls to be born, right? So they're literally killing us inside the womb, you know? So all these things that I didn't know, and every time I speak about it, I can see the people dropping their jaws like, seriously? You know, when I tell them that phrase of there's more affiliates for Planned Parenthood than McDonald's locations in the world, they drop their jaws. You know, and it's amazing how much we don't know and how much the government has been able to hide from us.
Yes, and like you said, they use our taxes for their own personal agendas, and people don't really know that Planned Parenthood, though, they're apparently, I mean, not only do they work all over the world, in every single place they work, they have a deal with the government where they benefit directly. So why is it fair that they get to benefit from government funds instead of other small business owners, you know, doing other different type of services, actually helping people, or, you know, use the taxes for something else, something a little more beneficial for the community instead of focusing on making some people rich, because some people are making really big money on this.
Agree.
So how does Planned Parenthood profit from women?
Well, for people to understand, because a lot of people go, well, there's many Planned Parenthoods that do it for free. Well, first of all, it's not Planned Parenthood doing it for free. It's our tax-given money, like California, Colorado, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, all these blue states like Washington and Oregon. When Planned Parenthood does free abortions, it's not Planned Parenthood saying, hey, let me put some of my CEO money, or the abortion is saying, like, you know what, don't pay me a salary, I'm going to do free abortions. No. It's our tax money that pays for those free abortions. So at the end, Planned Parenthood is getting paid to kill these babies with our money. But we have to remember, Planned Parenthood was the creator of what we're going to call it prime material. These businesses came out around abortion, right? I mean, we were talking about the exploitation of the fetal harvesting organs, right? The fetal cells. The scientists making all these experiments. I mean, look at it now. What do you think they started? Did you just read the article that came out today, how they now are able to create babies in artificial uterus that they have, like incubators? So where all that research came from babies to be born. You know, the university in California has been practicing, and this is for the last 5 years, they've been practicing of the genitalia of the unborn. Why are they practicing on switching genitalia on babies unborn? Because we knew that this woke culture, ideology culture was coming, these transgender services were coming, and obviously abortion was a big part of it, you know. So when people think of, oh, how could Planned Parenthood become so rich, they're just the middle person. We have to understand that Planned Parenthood is like the middle person, and there's businesses surrounding Planned Parenthood.
Specifically, the abortions and the actual fetuses that they collect from all these procedures. How does Planned Parenthood generate income from all these donations?
Well, first of all, in many states where it's legal, they're able to traffic them, literally, you know, give them to labs, corporations. There's a big corporation that literally sells this fetal remains for food products or creams, you know, or beauty makeup or whatnot, right? So, and medicines too. So first of all, with that, I don't know if you follow any of the Justice for Five, which was the 5 babies born after they were on late-term abortion done in surgery center in Washington, D.C. But they found out that an energy company was using the remainder of these babies. So you see, so there's many things that Planned Parenthood, many corporations, many scientists have done with them, and this is how Planned Parenthood profits from them. Now, the sad part, it's legal. It's perfectly legal. It's a legal business, you know, and that's why all those videos from David Delighton that they did on their cover went nowhere, because they actually have a permit from the government to do this, because they're not selling the baby parts, They're literally exchanging them for some money to pay for the process fee. So whatever you want to call them.
Yes, exactly. They hide under these legalities, and there's a black and white, and they play a lot with the gray, and they stay in the gray a lot, and they benefit in a lot of ways in a lot of different aspects, like you said. So thank you for giving us those examples, because many of us had no idea that was the case. Now, what is the difference between a clandestine abortion and one done at a legal establishment?
There's no difference nowadays. I mean, look at it. They're now selling the abortion pill at Walgreens and CVS. It's the same thing. You know, a woman is able to go get a pill, literally joining a video call the way we are, and someone that says it's a doctor will send them the prescription for abortion pills, and she will do it at home. There's actually no difference now. You know, when Latin America is going through a lot of, believe it or not, going through legalizing abortions, right? And a lot of people celebrate the fact that there won't be any back alley abortions. And he's like, do you understand that the same people that were doing back alley abortions are the ones doing the legal abortions now? They're the same abortionists. They're just getting a license now that they didn't have before. But that's one thing people don't understand. See, what we see in our borders, you live close to the border with Mexico, I do too. And what we see in our borders is that a lot of the abortionists from the United States cross over to Mexico and do illegal abortions. So the legal abortionists from America is doing back alley abortion in Mexico. People think that a back alley abortion is this curandera, we're going to call her that, right, in Spanish, which is that this witch woman, you know, that through plants and whatnot is going to do an abortion on their garage or in a room in her house, but that's not true. The reality is the back alley abortions were abortionists doing abortions illegally.
Okay. Yes, and like you said, in the border, you see a lot of things. You see that, I mean, it's an everyday thing. You see people that go south of the border and they do whatever they need to do for convenience or whatever the case may be. Sometimes people don't do the proper research on, you know, the place that they're actually selecting or the people that they chose, and it leads to even more problems, because, you know, you see a lot of bad news happening every day. Somebody, you know, passed away. Somebody had a procedure done, and something happened. It went completely south, and now it's going to be marked forever. So it's a lot of things that we see here in the border, like you said. Now, now that you talk about the border, Texas could be said to have used birth control in a positive way. Now, what do you think they did different to approach a better result for women in Texas?
Well, first of all, you selected Abbott. That right there was jackpot. You know, you have the perfect you know, you have the perfect players like to do what you guys did. You know, I think Texas, not only, like I spoke about before, Congressman Cuellar, you know, it wasn't just a governor, it's your senators, it's your congress people, it's your representative. Politically, it came perfect. That combination came perfect, but also the fact to understand that women deserve more than that, you know, that, I mean, look at Planned Parenthood. They actually admitted upselling on birth control. You know, they actually admitted that increase of birth control methods, even long-term birth control methods, you know, something they had been denying for at least 6-7 years, that it's actually what's needed out there, right? But also the fact that when you tell women that abortion is not an option, then they look for the other option, right? And then there's many other options that we like to give women. But that's what I said, you know, our goal should be that even if it's legal, women will feel like Texas, you know, I don't need an abortion. There's other places where I could go. And I think that's what it did different. Now, one of the challenges for Texas is New Mexico, unfortunately, you know, New Mexico who's becoming the destination of abortions. I mean, look at them opening mega clinics in Las Cruces, New Mexico, in Santa Fe, because it's so close to Texas, and willing to travel those women, you know, even in buses. You know, that really shocked me when I hear Planned Parenthood is ready to open a mobile clinic to provide abortion pills at the border with Texas, or actually bring tour buses full of women. Can you imagine all those women getting in a bus, like a bus, 50 women in a bus, taking to get their abortion and then ship them back 6 hours later after they've been harmed by an abortionist, full of pain, suffering not only physically but emotionally the loss of their baby, all back in a bus together and ship them back. What a
Yes, Yes, and you brought up a pretty good concern. New Mexico. I mean, we are right next to New Mexico, and New Mexico is amazing, but a lot of things that they do things a little different. Well, a lot different. And one of the things is, when it comes to abortion, for example, like you said, many people don't realize that specifically in this part of Texas and New Mexico, there are some neighborhoods where you have a bunch of homes that are part of Texas, and then a couple of homes that actually belong to, New Mexico. And it's weird because you see it a lot. You're walking down the street and you're in Texas, and then next thing you know, you're in New Mexico without really knowing about it. And I've seen a lot of all of that. I've seen a lot of medical facilities open right on the border to do their extremist abortion practices and take advantage of the legalities of things.
Exactly.
So why do you believe laws are being pushed extremely to the left when it comes to abortions?
Money, right? Let's remember, I just told you, Planned Parenthood's in the middle of all these big corporations, but the biggest corporation behind Planned Parenthood is the pharmaceutical corporation. And look at it. I mean, behind them, they're behind the harmonization of the transgender community, the puberty blockers for all these transgender kids or non-binary kids or whatever they're coming up with. Every day is a new thing, like the kid that thinks that she's a cat and they're putting a litter box in her school. I thought I have heard it all. But, so it's the pharmaceutical companies that are also behind Planned Parenthood, right? So it's all these big corporations with a lot of money behind Planned Parenthood, right? So the moment, it's not about women. These legislations are not to protect women. I mean, let's look at the legislation in California or New Mexico. Those legislations literally give no protection to the woman after a wrong abortion being done to her. She has no way to sue the doctor, no way to go after him. Who are they really protecting? I mean, look at the legislations to literally let babies die if they survive an abortion, right? Like, when we thought we have heard all the monstrosity from the abortion industry, then they come up with this crazy ideas that they all have to do about money. It's not about caring for women. It's not about protecting women. It's not about protecting women's rights. To me, protecting women's rights means the right to be born to begin with. Remember I said 53% of the women aborted are female to be born, right? So who are we protecting then?
Exactly. Yes, you bring up many good points, and thank you for that. Why do you think feminism should defend pro-life?
Because you cannot call yourself a feminist if you're not really considering protecting women. I mean, these women say they need abortion to be free, and the only thing abortion is helping is men. Literally, men are the most beneficial person from abortion. Why? Because behind the pharmaceutical corporations are rich men. Behind Planned Parenthood, a bunch of rich men, right? I mean, look at the court in 1973. It was a bunch of men, passing Roe v. Wade. So to call yourself a feminist and be for abortion, I call that a hypocrite. You're a hypocrite. You can't be a feminist and be for abortion. I know that now. I was naive. I was blind. Thinking that being a feminist and protecting women's right to choose, when in reality, all you are protecting, it's a big corporation.
Okay, yes, that makes sense. Now, some people, like myself, I like to include myself in that statement, may not be familiar with some things and how sometimes they can actually make assumptions about everything. Although people really shouldn't make assumptions, a lot of people in life, they go around just listening to whatever somebody says and they just believe it. Now, could you please tell us how the current abortion laws still help women even after the current Roe versus Wade decision?
Well, what happened with overturning Roe v. Wade, it wasn't that abortion became illegal in the United States, right? It literally just let the states decide what happens in their own state. Now, unfortunately, it has been 50-50, right? 50 of the states have passed abortion bans that have protected women and the unborn, right? But then the other half of the country literally have passed legislation, like I said, stripping women of any kind of power that they had over the abortionists. Like my case, for example, I would have not been able to do anything against the abortionists in New York, in California, and Colorado, because those legislations protect them from anyone doing anything against them, right? So And that's what the scary part is. For example, Arizona, the state that I live in now, you know, Governor Ducey had approved a lot of the bans. So then when the Roe v. Wade was overturned, those bans became in place. And now that we have a Democrat governor and 2 Democrat senators, we know where this is going. You know, she already told us she already is going to put abortion on their Title X funding. So we're going to have to pay for abortion. I'm ready to move to Texas. She's already saying that she's going to legalize abortion all the way to 40 weeks. She's already pushing for all these legislations, you know. So that's the scary part. A lot of people didn't understand, you know. We knew that was a risk, you know, but the fact that states like Texas and Florida and many other states are able to ban abortion or limit abortion in some way, it's kind of hopeful, you know. At least in those states, babies are being safe. Texas is doing great. Oh, you people need to move out of Texas and start going on all those states so we can change the rest of the country.
We can change a lot. For example, specifically about Texas, I'm from El Paso, and El Paso is completely Democrat. And it's hard to understand because, I mean, you do see that trend in those big cities. Every big city across the nation is Democrat. And that's because
Austin is very Democrat.
Exactly. You know, all the major cities in Texas and the rest of the nation, they tend to be, you know, Democrat. And that's why, you know, yes, at the end of the day, Texas is still conservative for the most part. But you know, we got big populations now that are making something happening in the opposite direction. So yes, you know, we still need people to push conservative because, you know, this thing can get out of control. Now,
we need to win
why do you think
2024? That's what we need to do.
Yes, hopefully, yes, I completely agree with you. Now, why do you think Planned Parenthood is there to help them? Well, why do you think people think that Planned Parenthood is there to help them when the reality is far from different?
Look, I was fooled. Remember how I started that? They help women. They help my community. They helping me, right? They don't care that I'm undocumented. They giving me a job. You know, most of the people we hire were people recently graduated. Some of them were just high school people that didn't pursue anything else, and they provide their own training, right? Look, I was trained to do ultrasounds, and I train other people to do ultrasounds. You don't need to go to school, right? Planned Parenthood's going to train you to do this, right? A lot of the nurse practitioners are literally have just left school. You know, they're still waiting on their license, and they're already working with a full salary at Planned Parenthood. And then let's talk about the community. I mean, you sell these women. One thing we have to agree on is that we're facing a generation of women, actually in general, that it's selfish, right? There's a lot of vulnerability, yes, but there's a lot of selfish people out there, right? That they only care about me, myself, and I, right? So one thing we have to realize is that if you sell someone the idea to be selfish, you know what? You shouldn't be a mother because you need to protect yourself, you know, make your career, live your life free, travel, do whatever you want, you know, and I'm here to give that to you, right? I'm here. And if that birth control fails, I'm here to give you the abortion, no guilt, right? So can you imagine? I mean, look at them, how they're good at twisting media, you know, now they're putting articles there that abortion is needed for the global warming, that abortion will help the economy, that abortion will help crime. Have you ever heard that they have an article that says abortion helps crime? You know, and it's like, how did they come in with all this kind of nonsense, right? But then you sell that to women, you sell that to people, and people really think. I mean, for years, my friend, for years, 16 years, I said I work for the good side of Planned Parenthood. For 16 years, I truly believed that I was, you know, until I realized what it was all about. It took me 10 months as the director of an abortion facility to see the reality. So I can't blame people from being fooled. I was fooled and I was inside, right? But I think that's what it is. You know, I think that they come up as, it's like this wolf, you know, with the custom of a little ovejita, like we say in Spanish, you know?
Yes. Yeah, you know, and if a lot of people tend to follow instead of, you know, question things. And there's nothing, I tell people, there's nothing wrong with questioning things, because a lot of times they label you as whatever. Again, when you question something, and it's not so bad to question something, all you want to do is, you know, what the real motive is behind it. You know, there's nothing wrong with being educated about anything, you know, on any topic. Exactly. Now, what are the consequences or dangers of an abortion?
Well, remember I accused the abortionist from complications that he didn't report. I saw daily perforations, not once a month, not once a year, not every other patient, no, like daily perforations, right? Complications will go from infections, bleeding, allergic reactions, unable, a lot of the women, what they see in their future is not able to carry any other children. Why? Because those perforations become scars on their uterus and they won't be able to be pregnant again. You know, a lot of people see that. You know, a big part of the pro-life movement, it's a lot of the women who regret their abortion, and a lot of them are facing sterilization, right? They're not able to be mothers anymore. And you never know. The abortionist can never make you a promise that you will be okay. I always tell people, I welcome you to ask that abortionist if he can give you his word that you will be okay, that nothing will go wrong. He will never do it. He can't. He literally cannot. You know, it's a blinded procedure. Even the abortion pill, right? Because they said, well, that's why we came up with the abortion pill. It's safer. Wrong. First of all, it was a pill not discovered for that. It wasn't meant to be for that. Second of all, no one knows how a woman will react. The pill is very dangerous too. Why? No one knows how much a woman will bleed. Women develop chronic anemia. You know, some women have bled to death at their homes, at their apartments. You know, why we don't hear more about that? I'm going to tell you why. Because when these women show up to the emergency room, and also our medical coding has been done to protect the abortion industry. You know, a lot of the times, if this woman has already been dead, they're not going to tell you that she did it through the abortion pill, right? They're going to be, oh, she was pregnant, she miscarried, she died. That's it. You know, through a pregnancy loss. That's it. Was it intentional or unintentional? We won't know, because most of the time they won't give us the real statistics. And my case should be a proof of that they don't really follow the statistics. Why? They don't report these complications, so they won't make them on the statistics. You know, purposely they will falsify the patient chart, so then we won't know that as many things can go wrong on abortion, right? And then give and sell the biggest lie to women. You know what's the biggest lie to women is when we tell them abortion is safer than carrying a baby to full term. That's the biggest lie the abortion industry has fabricated and sold for many, many years.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's completely different from reality. Now, did you ever see, I'm just curious, did you ever see women having multiple abortions, or do you know if there are women that have had multiple abortions?
Yes. Unfortunately, I had a patient that stated that was her abortion number 30th.
Oh, wow.
And that when I asked the abortionist, why don't you tell her, isn't that dangerous? When do you do something about it? Like, tell her, like, literally give her an ultimatum. We can't judge people. That's none of our business. I'm like, but you do know it's dangerous if she continues to do this. Some women do that as a birth control method. That woman will have an abortion like literally 3 times a year.
Oh, wow. Well, that's just completely wrong on so many levels, on so many aspects. Now, what is your message to someone that could be thinking about having an abortion right now? If someone was listening to you, you could talk to them, you could get into what they're thinking. What would you tell them?
That I know that abortion seems to be the easy way out. I know that we have sold you that as the answer for all your problems, but it's not true. It's not true. Abortion, it's not the easy way out. It's the opposite of being out. It's actually opening the door to darkness, to a lot of suffering. That there's a lot of help out there. You know, that gratefully we're in one of the greatest countries in the world. Still, we're one of the greatest countries in the world that it's willing to help so many people. You know, so you just have to get out there and ask for help, and you will receive. I promise you that. There's help out there. I know that they told you that that's not true, but I believe that myself. I truly believe that these organizations that were pro-life were not to help people, and I know now that they do. That they don't stop when the baby's born. They don't stop when the baby's 6 years of age. They don't stop when they go to college. They continue to work and work for the pro-life movement. So please, before you make a decision like that, please get out there and find real help.
yes, there's a lot of people out there helping, and a lot of organizations helping women out there in a lot of ways, like everything that you mentioned before. Now, why do you believe some people don't know the connection between Planned Parenthood and eugenics?
Because honestly, it's because they don't want to, right? I mean,
yeah.
Ignorance is a bliss, right? There's a reason why that saying it's so famous and popular, because it is, right? It was to me, to be honest with you. My ignorance there, it was a bliss. It was good for me not to know these things, I was blinded by it. My selfishness, my ego center of me taking care of my family. I don't see anything else but what it's right in front of me. And even if I heard the stories, or if I heard what was on the news, or what people will say on the sidewalk, I'll be like, oh, that's not true. That's not true. Why? Because it's easy to believe something that you cannot see, right? In this case, a lot of people, don't understand that connection between wanting to kill. Margaret Sanger started this movement as wanting to kill the people that to her was not worthy of being in this world. Look at them now. I just told you that International Planned Parenthood Federation provides the money to kill a lot of the babies out there in the world. Free abortions for the poor, free abortions from the indigenous, because they want to kill us. That's a reality. They don't want people that are not perfect. Like, look at Down syndrome. As soon as there's some sort of abnormality, kill it. Like if it's a woman in India, kill it. So if people don't see the connection, I don't know how else, especially when they don't see that the majority of abortions happening in the United States, let's just stay in the United States, are from minorities, meaning Hispanic, Latinos, and Black people.
Yes, of course. Thank you for sharing that thought. Now, how much is an abortion on an average?
Well, price has gone up just like everything else, thanks to Biden, of course. But apparently right now it's running $625 for an abortion under 12 weeks. Every week it goes up by $150. There's a doctor in Washington that charges $16,000 for an abortion of 28 weeks.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Cash.
Now, how much? That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And for something that's so inhuman in a lot of ways. Now, how much money can they possibly make off each abortion on a few aspects? See, I'm talking about the fetuses and the organs that they use as donation samples and everything else they use as a matter of fact.
Oh my God, my friend. I don't have the exact chart right now, but I mean, I'll find it and you can post it along with your video, because I mean, the amount of money they get, it's billions of dollars. You see, this corporation is very smart, right? It's not like Amazon or Walmart. Walmart's one. It's Walmart, right? But Planned Parenthood did was create like an octopus, different arms, so they can have different money coming from different sides and angles, right? And they don't have to respond the same way on the tax, for example. They can still count themselves a nonprofit, but that's why they have Planned Parenthood Action Fund. They have Planned Parenthood Student Fund. They have all these kinds of different arms, because on purpose, that way they won't have to report as much as they in one organization. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And you use a perfect analogy to simplify terms for a lot of people like myself to understand, why they do things and how they do it. Like you said, they multiply in different ways, and they attack the same issue, but from different aspects and in a lot of different areas. And that's how they can hide and move through the system. Now, how do you believe conservative promotes family values and integrity?
Well, I think that conservative means to conserve what we have as our family, right? Like mom, dad, and the kids, right? But some people have labeled as very wrong, right? To them, conservatives, that you're a white supremacist, wrong. To them, conservative means that you're just about religion. There's many atheists that are conservative, right? To me, as a Latino woman, being conservative means, still following my Catholic religion, right? Following what my religion taught me, right? Conserving my culture. Part of our culture as Latinos, it's big families. That's who we are. I love having over 16 cousins. I love knowing that my mother had 11 brothers and sisters, and that I have two brothers and a sister. You know, that's who we are. So to me, that is wanting to conserve what the Latino culture is, and it's exactly what the abortion industry is attacking, our culture. It's telling women we shouldn't have multiple kids. It doesn't matter that's your culture. It doesn't matter that's who you are or that's what you want. You shouldn't, right? Like, that's exactly why we have to conserve that for our children, for our future. Why? Because then they will end up killing us, right? Like they're doing now. Look at the euthanasia laws in Canada, you know, killing the poor people, killing the sick. You know, it's not going to stop with abortion. And that's one thing people need to understand. It will not stop with abortion. The next step will be the euthanasia of the elderly, of the sick, and of the poor.
Yes, you know, you brought up another example, Canada. Canada is a beautiful country with, you know, beautiful people and a lot of hardworking community as well. It's gone extreme left in recent years. Actually, people don't realize is that it started with the current the prime minister right now. His dad is actually the first one. Well, not the first one. He was the main manipulator of laws in Canada not too long ago, where he set the precedent for what's happening right now in Canada. So he allowed the laws when he was a prime minister to basically stop considering a human up until someone is fully away, and they actually cut the cord from the mother, which is basically up until you're born, they have the right to do anything they want, and they don't really consider anyone human until you're fully separated from the mother, and they cut the cord when we know that they start developing life and from way before that, you know, from the moment of conception. So it's a lot different. You know, people don't really know the way some organizations in some countries have pushed some laws, specifically Canada, for example. So hopefully we can do something about it so we can prevent it, because it will be really sad for our nation to go through something like this, something like what they're going through, without us realizing what we're going through, because we don't really know the consequences, the psychological consequences, the community consequences. This is a lot of changes for a lot of drastic on a lot of levels. So we really got to keep an eye on that.
Exactly.
Now, why do you believe our Hispanic culture is widely misunderstanding what conservative means and keep trusting all these fake outlets that they go out there and they sell something with, you know, a different motive?
I think that what they have, what the media has done is create a confusion in our Latino community. They're being, like I said, being conservative has to be Republican and white, right? That you're pro-Trump, or that you are pro whoever is wearing the red hat, right? And not understanding that that's not being conservative, right? That's not being conservative. Looking in Latin America, they're telling that being conservative, it's being Catholic and super uptight religious, right? And that doesn't mean being, there's so many Christian evangelicals, like I said, atheist people that are conservative, right? But it's conservative, it's literally conserving your values, conserving your culture. But why? You give a great example. Canada is also going through the legislation. We both learned that from our great friend Pablo Munoz, right? Who's constantly putting stuff on his social media, trying to alert people what's coming to the rest of the world. But look at it. I mean, what they're doing in Canada is now passing legislations that you're not only able to kill your kids in the womb, now you can request their euthanasia if they're sick, if they're depressed, if you're poor. You know, like it won't stop there. And that's one thing people need to understand. When we're conservative, Latinos are originally conservative. That's who we are. Why? Because we love to take care of our parents. We love to take care of our children. We love to take care of our brothers. I mean, it's not hard for someone to be like, oh, who do you live with? Oh, my brother and his wife and his kids, and we all live together, happy. You know, that's not hard to imagine that Latinos do live like that, you know, and that is something that the other side is trying to break. And that is part of being conservative, right? Like, for example, knowing that I'm not going to send my parents to a hospice, I will take care of them. That's being conservative too, you know, like conserving your values, but also teaching your kids that, you know, teaching your kids that you have to conserve that because it's our culture. It's who we are. And if we don't fight for it, they will make us disappear.
Yes, I completely agree with you. And funny you mentioned it, because I was recently in charge of a project where my whole job was to ask a survey. We'll conduct a survey on a specific group of people, all of them Hispanic, of course. Because I would always tell them, you know, without you realizing it, I'm going to ask you a series of questions to just understand your mind a little better. And it was actually focused of was actually intended to find out whether they were Democrats or Republicans in a way, or more progressists or conservatives in different ways. So the first round was basically to ask them questions and to get their answers, and then the second round was to tell them the results. 80% of them, 80% of those Hispanic results were actually conservative. And I would tell them, look, in this world, you don't know this, but in the eyes of progressives, they tell you anything that goes against progressive, you're labeled as conservative. Even some libertarians, that they're labeled as conservative. Anyone that goes against a specific extreme radical left, you're labeled with this epithet of, you're conservative and you're racist. And you're really not. You just happen to have a difference of opinion on their laws. But as soon as you oppose anything that the extreme radical left says, then they labeled you as whatever, including progressive and including conservative. And like I said, there's some people that are libertarians that they're not really conservative, but they're labeled as conservative because they don't agree with that decision. That's all. It comes down to a lot of aspects. And I tell people, ask the Hispanic community, because I was born in El Paso, Texas, but I grew up in Mexico, and I know family there, and we have lives in both sides of the border. Regardless of religion, we are going to be conservative, regardless of what or religion is, or what your thought is, or what your position is in the company, or what you do. I don't care. The whole point of it is, we come from this conservative background, and we have to realize that, we might not be looking at things the way they are right now, but hopefully we'll get there. Now,
look at the word progressive. What does progressive mean? I think it's wrongly used. Why? The Aztec were killing babies in the womb, a newborn, right? Shouldn't progressive means not killing another human being? Like, I don't understand how progressive means going back to what the Aztecs were doing, for example, going back to what the indigenous were doing before they knew better, which is kill each other just because you just wanted to kill each other in a fight, So how is that called progressiveness when you're teaching women that going backwards, it's actually progress?
Yes, and that's one of the things that I tell people because I hear that a lot. Whenever I speak out on things, on anything, for as a matter of fact, they right away say, "Oh, so you don't believe in progress? That's why you're not progressive." I said, "Well, I'm glad you mentioned it, because you sound like a smart person talking." Progress was actually a word that was used a long time ago by the ancient Greek that meant the continuous improving of something, socially, culturally, politically, continuous improvement of something. Progressive is a whole different world. It's not even the same. It doesn't take a lot to realize that the word is not the same thing as progress. Progressive, the first time the actual word was used was the Progressive Party, which is now basically known the Democrat Party, and it was in 1912. Started developing the idea of progressive in the late 1800s, and then it became a word when Roosevelt used it as the Progressive Party, but with a totally different meaning. Like, people don't realize, look, progress is a word that had this meaning by the ancient Greek, and we used it ever since then, and we adopted the meaning and everything else. Progressive is something that was used by really smart people with a really different motive, but they sold it to you in that way. They took a word and they made it sound like it is something that is not, and to sell you an idea. But it's not. Progress is not the same thing as progressive.
Exactly.
So how is your life different now that you're advocating for the community as opposed to what you were doing before?
Wow, peaceful. You feel a peace that you can't really describe it. Does that make sense? My life before was a mess, literally. My personal life, my life as a person, I was a mess. You never realize that working for that dark side will literally get to you to the root, and the core. And now, it's a peaceful life. I feel blessed every day. It's healing when I get to speak my story, when I get to go into the community. Tomorrow I'm speaking at Grand Canyon University with Students for Life there, and to me that is healing, to be able to put a little seed of hope and information with them, the students, the new generation, the ones that are going to save us, I'm hoping, that's healing. So it's a very different, it's inspiring, you wake up every day wanting to do it, you know what I mean? And you and I have talked about it. I'm willing to give my life in this fight. When people send us threats or those angry messages, or they post stuff on our social media. It's like they think we're afraid, but we're actually here for it. You know, we're here ride or die. You know, we're going to do this no matter what. So unafraid.
Oh, yes, I completely agree with you. And it's amazing the way people sometimes attack someone that's just trying to do whatever they think is right. At the end of the day, you know, one of the great things of this country is, you know, the freedom of speech, which is something that can be attacked by the radical left movement in a lot of ways. And it's the right to speak our minds and, you know, to say what we think, whether it's right or wrong. It's our opinion, and there's nothing wrong with saying it.
It's getting there. Look at them now. They're going to try to pass buffer zones where we won't be able to pray outside of an abortion facility.
Yes, and we got many people. Yes, and you know, you mentioned Mr. Pablo Munoz Iturrieta right now, and a really great example of something that he does from Argentina, living in Canada, exposing all these things that are happening, and therefore the rest of us to know, because, you know, some of us don't live there, we don't get to experience the daily news. So it's nice to hear people like, in this case, Pablo Munoz Iturrieta in Canada from Argentina. And then you also get Agustin Laje, for example. You also get Mico Lucas, you get Horacio Gusto. You know, we get you now in the USA. So now you get a lot of people working in the same continent for the same reason. And it's good to see, you know, that conglomerate of people working together, doing something good for the community.
Yes, I agree. I admire all of them.
Yes, you know, yourself included. Ahora que usted ya es una persona muy importante dentro de nuestra comunidad hispana en Estados Unidos y en Latinoamérica también, promoviendo y protegiendo a la mujer, pero ahora es diferente, bueno, ahora desde luego en otro aspecto diferente de su carrera. ¿Qué opina usted sobre la manera en que algunos hispanos siguen comprando todos estos epítetos? ¿Cuál sería su mensaje para que los hispanos abrieran los ojos en cuanto a sus decisiones para confiar en la veracidad de las noticias a la hora de escoger su lugar donde uno consume sus noticias?
Yo sigo sin entender por qué ven Univisión y Telemundo y TV Azteca. Yo siempre le digo a la gente, tienes que salir ahí. Si te basas en lo que ellos te dicen, son más comprados que nada. Mira, te voy a dar un perfecto ejemplo. Tú creerías que mi historia empodera al inmigrante, ¿no? Que querrías que más inmigrantes supieran lo que Mayra logró en una corte, ¿no? Históricamente, soy la primera inmigrante en ganar una demanda contra un empleador en Estados Unidos. Sin embargo, Univisión ni una sola vez me ha querido dar 3 minutos de tiempo en el aire, ni para contar mi historia, ni para hablar de otro tema, ¿eh? Me han entrevistado, pero a la mera hora no pasan mi entrevista o pasan un segundo diciendo algo, cambiando casi todo el contexto de la entrevista, ¿no? ¿Por qué? Porque es la forma que tienen de engañar, porque una vez más la gente tiene que entender que de algún lado sacan el dinero. Ellos siempre van a ir por el mejor postor. Me sorprende, sabes, que siendo latinos, que venimos de países tan corruptos, la verdad, yo como mexicana y tú también sabemos que México es el número 1 en la corrupción a nivel mundial. Lastimosamente nos duele, pero es la verdad. Pero de ahí el resto de Latinoamérica ha sido igual de corrupto en muchos otros países. Y a mí me sorprende que viniendo de países como Cuba, como Venezuela, como México, que sabemos que o matan a los periodistas o se dice lo que el gobierno quiere nada más, la gente caiga en creer que aquí nos van a contar la verdad. Porque lo oí en Univisión, he escuchado a alguien decir, por favor, no. La gente tiene que salir, tiene que oír lo que mencionaste tú, videos de personas, ¿no? Es más, si esa persona fue bloqueada en alguna red social como YouTube o Twitter, esa persona es la que debes de oír, porque por algo nos están bloqueando, ¿no? Yo sé que a ti te tumban a cada rato tus publicaciones, a mí también. Sabemos que perdemos seguidores de la noche a la mañana, de repente se te bajaron 100 seguidores, dices tú, ¿cómo que ya me dejaron de seguir? ¿No? Y no es verdad, sabemos que hay un ataque contra nosotros. Tú, al igual que yo, no importa si nos siguen 1 o 3 o 4, aquí vamos a seguir. A Pablo Muñoz le han cancelado los canales de YouTube, igual que Agustín Laje. Agustín Laje tiene prohibido la entrada en muchas partes de Argentina, Miklos Lucas también en muchos países. Esas personas a las que no quieren que escuches son las que debes de buscar, son las que debes de buscar de oír, porque esas son las que traen la verdadera información y el verdadero interés para nuestra comunidad latina, ¿no? Somos los que de verdad queremos que estemos todos bien y unidos vamos a hacer la diferencia.
Sí, unidos obviamente tenemos que estar todos unidos para sobrellevar todo esto y como dice, es importante cómo nosotros como comunidad hispana, a veces viniendo de países tan corruptos, porque lo hemos visto toda nuestra vida, México es un gran ejemplo de eso, no confiamos a veces en lo que está pasando y nos dejamos ir, entramos en una situación completamente a ciegas y mucha gente está completamente feliz yendo a ciegas por la vida y la realidad es muy distinta. Cuando el concepto es muy sencillo, o sea, no toma mucho entender que el socialismo y el extremismo izquierdista ha hecho mucho daño en Sudamérica, en México, en muchas de estas partes, en que sigue teniendo consecuencias y la gente no está abriendo los ojos. Bueno, y por último, ¿cuál sería su mensaje general para un hispano trabajador que esté escuchando su mensaje ahorita?
No te dejes engañar por los demócratas. No es verdad que quieren dárnoslo todo. Digo, han tenido cuánta oportunidad, ¿no? Especialmente a la comunidad inmigrante, ¿no? Ese sueño de va a llegar la reforma migratoria no va a llegar nunca. Somos la mano de obra que mueve al país, por lo tanto no le conviene a nadie legalizar 11 millones de personas, así que eso no va a suceder. Mira, hoy el gobierno tiene todo para dar el Dreamers otra vez, no lo está haciendo. Sin embargo, sí está tirando millones de dólares a la industria del aborto que van a servir para matarnos a nosotros. Entonces, despierta, por favor, despierta y no permitamos que todo lo que trabajamos diario con el sudor de nuestra frente matándonos allá afuera sea para ser rico a un político como el de California, ¿no? Por ejemplo, ¿no? O poner en la Casa Blanca a Kamala, que eso hizo todo el estado de California, míralos ahora, ¿no? Lo que hicieron, ¿no? Entonces, algo bien importante, yo sé que el programa se trata de eso, pero este 2024 nos tenemos que poner más abusados que nunca, no podemos votar por lo mismo que nos ha traído aquí a donde estamos en menos de 4 años. Mira qué desastre tenemos de país.
Sí, es un desastre y la verdad es que muchas veces, y ha pasado repetidamente al transcurso de la historia, un partido político llega y comienza a vender una historia del cambio y la gente lo compra de una manera equivocada, lo compra de una manera incorrecta, porque están diseñados es que la gente que está cargando esto es una gente muy inteligente, muy poderosa y sabe manipular a la gente en muchos sentidos y necesitamos mucho trabajo, tenemos mucho trabajo que hacer para ayudar a nuestra comunidad, entonces hay que seguir trabajando en ello.
Así es. Juntos haremos la diferencia, así que a trabajar duro. Gracias, ¿eh?
Sí. No, I would like to thank you for your time and thank you for your continued work for your community. I know you're a very busy woman and you took, a couple of hours away from your day to interview with me today. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for your work and, we'll see you in the future.
Oh, yeah, we will continue to work together. That's a
Hi, my name is Mayra Rodriguez and I'm the current director of Elevated Strategies. I want to thank you for the time you took out of your day to watch your entire video. I'd like to also invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you're going to continue to create content to raise social awareness based in truth and facts for the benefit of our nation. Now, we're also going to provide information about our social media so you can add us there as well. Unlike Planned Parenthood, we don't benefit from anything from the government. Everything that we do comes out of our pockets, so we're asking for your support as well. We'll provide information in the comment section below as well. Now, if you cannot contribute to our cause, it's okay. If you can like, comment, and share content, that would really help us out. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.